Welcome to the Business of Design podcast. I'm Cheryl Horn, Director of Operations for Business of Design, and I'm so excited to introduce our latest guest host, Business of Design member and interior designer Juliana Oliveira. During a recent BOD Live member meeting, Juliana shared with us that she found her own iSoon and generously offered to introduce her to the BOD community. So in this interview, Juliana speaks with the amazing woman who has recently joined her team and taken over her Step 1 intake process, Portia Williams. Together, they identify how to know when you need support and talk about how the intake process goes beyond Step 1 if you're building a business based on repeat and referral clients. Portia captures this so well in a single line. The fortune is in the follow-up. And of course, she goes on to share exactly how she helps do that as part of Juliana's team. Before I hand things over to Juliana, we're actually going to mix things up one more time this week, and I'm going to bring Kimberly on to do announcements. A little bit of a role change for you, but hey, Kimberly, how are you doing?
Well, I'm well. Thank you, Cheryl. This does feel
a little bit of role reversal.
Yeah, I like it.
Okay, well, what's happening at BOD right now?
Well, I can tell you, I got, and I have no idea if this is officially how you do it, Cheryl, so you'll help me out here if I do it wrong, but I got an email from a member, someone who's been a member for quite a long time, and I've done coaching with her as well. It just made me so happy. She said that 2020 was her best year ever, thanks to Business of Design and her coaching, and that 2021 is now shaping up to be an even better year. And she asked if she could still apply to be in the boss group, to which I said, oh my gosh, you would be so awesome in the group. They'd be so lucky to have you. And then we got into a conversation about legacy and how you prepare your business if you think you might be able to sell it one day. And I started thinking how terribly sad it is that when we go to design school, they don't talk to us about that right at the beginning, right? To set your business up in a way that you could sell it one day. Why not? All my men friends, all my male friends sell their businesses. None of my female friends. When I brought this up to a bunch of girls, none of them sold. I know if I had been given this information sooner, I would have made changes to my business earlier that would have made this process easier. So yes, as part of the boss group, I am committed to, at least for those who want it, making sure they understand how to create an exit strategy and perhaps how to sell their business for real money at the end of their career, which is amazing.
And I think the earlier you start that conversation and that planning, the more options you have.
That's it. Exactly it. And then the other thing going on at Business of Design, episode 221. This is episode 220, I think. So episode 221, I had the greatest conversation with this woman named Sierra Collins. And she did for me what is known as a DISC assessment. It's a very simple way of figuring out how to communicate more effectively with people. And I shared with Sierra that I was a little skeptical about it because I feel like I'm a pretty good communicator, but honestly, it really, really transformed how I think about how I communicate with my clients, with my trades, with my staff, and even with my husband, and maybe even with you, Cheryl. So I'm excited for everybody to learn more about that as well.
Yeah, so that's coming up next week when you take back over the podcast.
It's my turn. Get out of the seat for sure. And we've decided as well, the very first boss group that we'll be launching in October. We're getting so excited about that. But we've just decided, like we do all the time, that we're going to add the DISC assessment to that group's agenda. We're going to give everybody a DISC assessment so they can be more effective communicators with clients. So I've been very excited about that. And I know we're closing registration, but I, for one, am super keen about that and everything else that's going on at Business of Design, including these mic takeovers. Thank you so much for arranging them, Cheryl.
Yes. And for those who are still interested in Boss, I have had several members actually reach out and ask for an extension. They are really busy with projects. And, we do ask for very thorough information up front. We have been more flexible with our window closing for Boss, but please, the sooner the better to get those applications in. We'll certainly still consider them when they do, and we'll, close things up later in the month. For those of you still working on getting your applications in, or if you've got any questions, always always feel free to reach out to me. Now we're going to hand things over to Juliana. Thanks so much, Kimberly.
Can't wait to hear the show. Thank you.
Welcome to the Business of Design podcast with Kimberly Selden. Business of Design is the world's best business training for interior design professionals like you. We have the systems, strategies, and protocols you need to consistently satisfy clients, increase profitability, and run your projects like a boss. Unlike traditional coaching, BOD is a fast track to immediate results. Don't try to do this alone. Join today and you'll have access to hundreds of targeted training modules, plus member perks like BOD Live events, member-only podcasts, preferred pricing, and the support of an engaged community of peers. We all know design matters. At Business of Design, we think designers matter too.
Hi, everybody. Welcome to another episode. My name is Juliana Oliveira, and I'm so excited to be your host today. Thank you, Kimberly, for providing me with the opportunity to have a conversation about such an important topic for us designers, which is, when is it time to outsource? I know personally it was very difficult for me to trust somebody outside of my organization with really important conversations, especially when we're talking about the first conversation the client is going to have, the first interaction the client is going to have before they meet me. So in order to really be able to dive deep and provide you with all the personal and tactical insight, I'm super happy to have the company of Portia Williams, who's the founder of The Prototype, a lifestyle management company based in Dallas, Texas. Portia, I am so happy to have you here.
Juliana, I am so happy to be here. Thank you for having me on.
Yes, just to give a little bit of background, Portia has been a part of my team for quite a few months now. She's helped me with the new client intake and is very familiar with the BOD system, which we all love and adore and live by. And she does all of the first-time consultation bookings. So to give everyone a little bit of background of who you are, Portia, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you so much. So I met Juliana a couple years ago through the office that she works in, and I am an entrepreneur. I'm a mom. I started my business a few years ago because I felt like I was the only one that felt like there was too many things to do and not enough time to do it. As entrepreneurs, we're running our business, and if you're a mother and a wife, you have those responsibilities. You have all the responsibilities in your community and with other relationships, and sometimes you just need a helping hand. And so that's where The Prototype came from. We offer lifestyle management services to busy professionals, entrepreneurial executives, community leaders, and we do that through personal concierge service and business concierge service. And that's the way that Juliana and I started working together as a part of our business concierge service. And I have really, really enjoyed the experience so far. It's been amazing. I really admire her and look up to her as a fellow female business owner. And I really enjoyed the work that we do together, which is helping to make the first experience that Beyond ID clients have be memorable and be special and be really unique and something different from what they may see from other providers. So yeah, I'm excited.
So I'll tell you, Portia, as a designer, it can be quite overwhelming, the thought of, handing a part of your business, a part of your process off to a third party, right? Especially if you're not sure if they understand how you really do business and who you are as a person. But what would you say are some key moments that we should be looking out for that means that we need extra support?
I think the first key moment that you should look out for is a spike in your business, which I know a lot of people are experiencing right now. When you start to see things falling through the cracks quickly, that can really affect you as a business owner, because there's nothing worse than feeling like you can't take advantage of opportunities to grow because you don't have the support that you need. So as a business owner, it's really important to be able to meet the needs of the industry and your clients in areas that don't require your specific time, presence, and expertise. And that's where outsourcing comes in. And specifically the client intake process. If you have a good system in place, it works really well to be able to outsource this piece of the business because it doesn't actually require you being on the phone and speaking with people as their first point of contact.
Yeah, exactly. And I know the entire industry has seen a huge spike in interest, post-COVID world. Everybody's trying to get their homes improved and at its best. So I can speak for most designers that we've seen a lot of at least calls and interest. So again, sometimes people are calling and just wanting to know information, and that could be a waste of time, in quotes, if we're just taking all the time that it would take to talk through all those people and figure out if they're actually going to be a viable client for us or a viable project, or if we even are providing the type of service that client is looking for. So I'm so grateful that I did find you, that I can pass that off to, because you do all of that work for me. What are some other things?
I think really, really understanding the importance of taking the time and energy required to be present in your business, having someone else focused on a specific piece of the business frees you up as the business owner to maximize your energy and presence in the other areas of the business that do require expertise, like designing. That's why you started this business, because you love to design. So it doesn't make, it's not the best use of your time to be doing some of the tasks that are required, but don't require you, like the client intake and nurturing relationships and all of that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. And I know you help us, not only with the client intake, but anytime I'm in a bind, which this is the reason why I love that we partner with a company like yours, that does concierge service. Like you do so many different, you can do so many different aspects of the business for us. But anytime I'm in a bind where I feel like, this client just needs a little bit of extra attention and a little bit of customer service, I can give you a call, and you've helped me come up with, a card or a gift or just a nice phone call on behalf of, our company. So that really frees up my time to manage the projects that I have going on and being creative and creating new projects that we have upcoming. If you can help, with the client. So I know that was a big one for us.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's important to find somebody when you're going to pass off this important type of task that has a really strong customer service background and understands and really enjoys kind of bringing that smile to your clients' faces and understanding the importance of that. So that's something that you want to look out for when you're looking to bring somebody onto your team, that they have a really established clientele background and experience. And depending on the type of firm that you are, maybe they have luxury experience, maybe they have retail experience. All of those things will help enable them to be the person that you need, and that they're not afraid to talk to people.
Yeah, exactly. And I know it's sometimes hard for other designers that are listening to relate to the guest in terms of how does this apply to my business, right? For me, we have a pretty good sized team. We have 10 people in the office. So I know how I can speak from experience on how this relates to me. But I would think, when I think back when I was a solopreneur, just working my butt off, wearing so many hats, I could have really appreciated having somebody that would be able to pick up on a couple things here and there that will help relieve some of that stress. You only have 24 hours in a day, and really you should be sleeping, some of those hours too, And I know as designers, we just want to please our clients and push out the best projects and have the best pictures and all of those things. So sometimes we don't sleep, but it is very recommended that you do. So it's nice to have, a little bit of representation, even when you are running a one-person company, or you have a few assistants, but sometimes you just get a little busier and you just need a little bit more representation. So I know that some of those designers out there can really benefit from outsourcing some of these things as well.
Yeah, for sure. And I think for some designers too, it's important to know that it doesn't have to start where we're at in our relationship. You can start freeing up your time by introducing some automations in your business that help create those boundaries. And and it does, and the other benefit is that it takes a lot of the emotion out of the process. I remember listening to a Business of Design episode when we first started, and I'm so happy that you introduced that episode to me. And they were talking about the importance of having a buffer and kind of a gatekeeper between the prospect and the designer, because of your love for design, if you're taking the discovery calls could last an hour and you may solve all of their design problems because you have the knowledge. But for me, there's only a certain level I can go from an expertise standpoint. And so it helps keep the boundaries clear, and it helps to kind of set expectations, and it gives the client a perception of the stability of the company and that there are clear processes. And I think that helps overall.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I know when I first was introduced to Business of Design, I was a little bit hesitant on that discovery. Well, that's the first impression the company's, the client's going to have on my company. I want to make sure, they talk to me and I come across the right way. But I quickly learned that was the best solution. Kimberly has iSoon, who's incredible, and I've tapped on to iSoon for training on that as well.
That's such a great episode.
Yeah, that's a good one. And I think whenever we first started working together, I was kind of in a bind. The person that was doing our intake was somebody that was working internally. So it was one of our design assistants, and she suddenly left, and we were getting a lot of calls and a lot of interest, and we didn't have somebody to do that intake. And I was really worried. And my first thought was, okay, I need to talk to Portia, but also how do I give her the quick rundown of what this process looks like, what our process as designers looks like, what we're trying to come across, how we're trying to come across to the client at that discovery call. And the first thing I shared was that podcast, the BOD podcast episode with iSoon. It's been so awesome. So I'm glad that I was able to share that. Thank you, Kimberly, for always providing some great information in these podcasts. So yeah, it's been incredible to have that buffer, and it creates excitement too, because sometimes as an entrepreneur or as a solo designer, you are there by yourself every step of the way. You don't have anybody to really share your wins, and I know, Portia, you and I earlier today were going back and forth about the consultations that we had booked this week and previous week. And I shared that, we've got 3 new contracts, this person and this person signed a contract, and you were so excited. So
I love to hear that. I love to hear it.
Yeah. It's a really great, great symbiotic relationship. And I think the client also, like when I'm going to the consultation, they talk about you, and they talk about, Portia and I talked about this, and it just makes me feel like we have so much more bandwidth, and our team is so much deeper than, what we see here at the office.
No, I totally agree. I feel like I'm a people person, so I love talking to people, and I really like getting a little bit extra insight on them as people, because I think that will help you and when you go to do the consultation, beyond just what they're looking for, but getting to understand like the types of questions they ask, what's important to them, and all of that has been provided. As far as like the prompts, we have a script that we follow that is really, really helpful in making sure that we understand the why behind when people reach a decision to reach out to work with an interior designer. So I like that the system that you have in place it really allows me to feel confident in making my calls, because I understand your system. I understand what the client needs, and our conversation allows for getting information as well as getting some additional insights that might be helpful for you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That's actually really helpful when I get that information, on a nicely typed out sheet. Yeah. Another reason that I really like the idea of outsourcing now, I've converted to accepting that, is that it really allows for nurturing relationships, right? So if I'm the one that's continuously having to check back with my clients, I may not be doing a great job, because if I'm really busy and I'm in the weeds with current projects, then it may fall through the cracks to check it back with clients that we finished projects 6 months ago or a year ago. So I really lean on you, Portia, for that. So I think that's another thing that people can be looking out for.
Yeah, I agree. We love to help our clients' vision come true, and I love to be able to offer creative solutions to help build and nurture that relationship, whether it's reaching out to send a gift, or looking into the client and finding something that they like, so that gift is that much more memorable and personalized. I think overall the fortune is in the follow-up. And that is, and by having those relationships nurtured and people hearing from you frequently, you stay top of mind for them, which is important. And it shows them, even before they've become a client, that you're willing to go, quote unquote, beyond for them. And I think that's really, that's key. And it helps, I would think it helps to increase your conversion.
Yeah, I found that that's the case for us. As we grow, I'm starting to track more and more data. And when I go back and look at those numbers, it's pretty clear, because at the end of the day, the client is looking for a full experience, and it's a relationship, especially when you're working in residential, right? So those little tidbits of, extra attention and a little card or a gift or whatever it is that you do to nurture that relationship goes a long way, for sure. All right. I think another thing that we should talk about is, as a designer, I know there's so many things that I love to do and so many things I don't love to do, and I think particularly the relationship between you and us here at Beyond. We really lean on you for the client relationship aspect of things and for the client intake, but that's not necessarily the only ways that we could be looking to outsource, right? Perhaps you don't enjoy doing technical drawings or renderings or anything else that is part of the design process or the client relations process. So I would say a piece of advice is, understand what are those things that you like to do, and then start making those lists. One of somebody that I work with also taught me how to create a fun skill matrix, where you take a piece of paper and you run a line vertically and horizontally and create 4 quadrants, and you start to separate tasks that you do on a daily basis that are required, that you actually think are fun, and things that are not so fun. And then you start to separate those, and things that are high skill and things that are low skill. And then you start to really get an idea of things that really make sense for you to do. If it's high fun for you and you have the time, great. That's the thing that you should be doing. Don't outsource that. If it's high skill in high fun, fantastic. That's definitely something you should be doing. But if something is on your quadrant that is low fun and low skill, that's definitely something that you need to be outsourcing, right? So that's how I figure out, what are the pieces that are really important for me to take on and do myself, and how, what are some opportunities that perhaps I should be looking to outsource to somebody else.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, one of the things that we talk to that comes up in consultations that we do with clients for my company is, just because you can do something doesn't mean that you should be doing it. And they're like, being on the other side of doing all the things all the time is so refreshing and freeing. And you really fall in love with why you started your business in the first place, because you're focused on those high skill, high fun activities instead of the low skill, low fun activities. And I think it's important to, like, if you're going to delegate and outsource successfully, what you just spoke about, the matrix is essentially like auditing your tasks. So like looking at what you do, just take like a week's time, for example, just look at all the things that you do on a daily basis, just write all of that out in a list, and then start to segment. Okay, this does require my time and attention. This doesn't require my time and attention. And all the things that don't require your time, attention, and expertise, find the right person to take over that task. And then the other piece to that is making sure that they're set up for success. So making sure that they have the podcast episode ready to listen to, that they have your brand voice ready. They have that document. They have a script to go by. All of those things. It is such a game changer when it comes to successfully outsourcing, making sure that the person that you're outsourcing to is set up for success, because you have to realize that just because all the things that you hate to do, there's somebody out there that loves to do that. Like, for instance, I hate spreadsheets. I loathe them. Like, I don't get it. My brain doesn't work like that. But there are people in the world that love spreadsheets. My husband is one of them, and he thinks in spreadsheets. And so finding the people that love to do the things that you don't love to do can really be a game changer, and it can help you manage your day-to-day life and business.
Yeah. And it frees up mental capacity, right? For you to do those things that are required of you. And that you do like to do, and as creatives, we get into this business as designers because we like to design. We want to transform spaces. We want to make people happy. We want to do all these great things. And then we don't really think about the business so much when we're starting. And then we quickly realize that can take over everything. And if you're not, as business savvy as, you would like to be, you get quickly bogged down with those issues and those things that I don't like to do this. I know I have to do this, but and it just takes a toll on you as a person, your mental health, and also as a creative. Then you in turn end up not being a great designer because you're tired.
Yeah.
And you don't have the time and the mental capacity to do those things, right?
It can affect you mentally. It can affect you in the work and the product that you ultimately turn out. But then it also affects your pocketbook too. Like, a lot of entrepreneurs have issue with control because we love what we do and we love our business so much. So it's hard to turn it over to someone else. But if you think about, like, let's say a simple example is graphics. You need a graphic created and you decide to do it yourself. Think about think about your billable time. It may take you 5 hours to do one graphic. That just cost you 5 hours worth of your billable time that you could have been using to work for a client. As opposed, instead of doing that, you could just outsource that task. It may take a designer 1 hour to do what took you 5 hours, and then you saved yourself time and money and stress because you were doing something that isn't even in your wheelhouse or in your kind of zone of genius, I guess you could say. So,
and at the end, you spent 5 hours doing that. And because you weren't the expert, it wasn't as good as if you paid somebody to get it done. That is definitely something I can relate to. I come up with all these ideas and I have a pretty clear vision of what I want. And I find myself diving into projects, not client projects, but internal projects. And really spending a lot of time doing that. And sometimes I tell myself, well, is it worth the money to pay somebody else to do that if I can really get what I want? And the answer is yes. It's worth it, and if you spend money is currency, which is energy, right? So the energy that you're putting into whatever project that is, if you put more currency, more energy, sometimes it doesn't mean that your time, it means the payment that you're giving to somebody else that has a higher skill level to get that done, not only is it going to get done faster, it's going to get done properly. So I've become a big proponent of outsourcing. I can say the same thing about our social media, the same way that we're talking about our client intake process. Outsourcing that has been fantastic for us. It's been a game changer. Outsourcing our social media management was another one. I could never do at my best, I could never do, a quarter of what my social media manager does. And the results, she's an expert. She knows, the right hashtags and the right time and what our clientele is looking for. I may think I know those things. I may be able to get that information somewhere, but if I spend my time really growing my skill set as a designer and spending more time providing better designs for my clients, providing better results, a better experience through the process, and just being more present in that way and not have to worry about what's coming down the pipeline because somebody else is kind of doing that already. Mm-hmm. It just makes me a better human being and a better designer as well.
Yeah. I mean, one of the clients that we were talking about yesterday that we were celebrating that signed a new contract came from I learned when I spoke to her on her discovery call that she found us on social media and saw one of the posts and immediately reached out. And so and you didn't have to do anything in order for that to happen because you left it to the social media expert to make sure that you have compelling and engaging content. They come over to me, I get all their information and kind of, and the first touch point, and then you go and be your fabulous, wonderful self in the consultation. And then now they're a client and you were able to stay in your zone of genius doing what you love.
Yeah. And, it does another thing that Kimberly talks about all the time, creating that separation really allows a client to see you as a professional, as the talent, right? Mm-hmm. So you're no longer, the transaction, you are the talent. And then they know that moment that they have with you, they've already gone through, they found me on social media, right? And love the content that we have out and all of that good stuff. They got to talk to you and understanding that, this is the reason why you should book a consultation. This is what the consultation is going to look like. So you preparing the client, you hyping it up for me to show up. And then when I show up, they're just like, oh my gosh, I can't wait to talk to you. Yeah. And then they really see value. You create that value for the client of spending that 2 hours with me. So that they really see that the time that they have with me is precious and it was paid, and it sets the tone for the rest of the project. So throughout the project, our projects will be smoother because they understand that we particularly bill hourly. So when they do get those hourly invoices, they understand, she's the expert and that's how much she charges. And it eliminates a lot of that those conversations. I don't have to have those conversations with the clients because they already have that established, right? That relationship and that dynamic established from our intake process that they go through.
Yeah, I think it breeds mutual respect for the client and the process. And like you said, they see you as a professional and they understand that this is a full functioning professional design firm, and I'm going to get a high quality result by working with them. And they really trust that. And they love your design and aesthetic. And so to have the company operate in a way that looks just as great as the visuals, I think is super impactful for prospective clients.
And I couldn't do it by myself. And
exactly.
I have 10 people in my team here in the office. Even then, we couldn't do it by ourselves. It takes on an expert and, somebody that's solely dedicated to that. I feel like to really have that experience and set the ground for that, right? Set the pathway for that. And, Portia, something that I think is relevant that we should talk about too is I know, again, whenever we came to you at first, we were kind of in a bind. It was a very quick transition, and I wasn't sure, how much time I was going to have to invest getting you up to date with the BOD system and how we do things. So I quickly started resorting to, previous emails that we had sent out to other clients and creating templates, really thinking about what does that conversation need to look like in the discovery, and like typing that up and sending it over to you. So if I would have been a little bit more prepared, I think that would have been even easier for me to hand off to somebody else. So what are some things that you think from an outsider, right? Like looking in, like that's been really helpful to you? Because I'm sure there were other things that I didn't give you because I am not perfect, right? That today you can look back and say, well, if I would have had that, I would have been way more successful and much quicker to pick up. So can you share some of those things?
Well, let me say first that you are leaps and bounds ahead of a lot of people. And so I want you to know that, because if I didn't have what you did provide me, it would have taken longer for me to feel comfortable. Because I don't have a design background, it would have taken longer for me to feel comfortable talking to clients. But one of the things that I think that podcast episode was really great, something that that you provided a little bit later was the consultation document. Just that had a little bit more bullet points around the importance of the consultation and why it's structured the way it is, what they can get out of it. Having a clear understanding on the pricing structure has been really important. And I think as things came up through having discovery calls, you kind of get those frequently asked questions. And so having your response to that did help me a lot, as far as being able to speak to it without going too much into detail. Because a lot of times I'll let a client know that you will go into more detail. Maybe it's around the scope of the work or budget. A lot of times people don't know what their budget is. And that's okay. Because it's something based on the conversation that you have in the consultation, you'll be able to work through that with the client.
And that's something that we at first set up a few meetings, right? So we would say like once a month or once every 2 weeks. Time, and we're going to go through all those frequently asked questions so you felt confident about what you're saying.
And then one other thing that you provided that was really great is, and I don't know if you do this every year, but you had like a beginning of the year meeting, and you sent me the recording of that, and it was so impactful because it went through your brand voice, your brand personality. You really talked extensively, and this was a team meeting about your target audience, and understanding how they live and how they receive information. All of those things are time intensive on your end to put together, but I'm telling you, it's so, so impactful, and it really helps make the transition a lot smoother. And that's the thing when you're outsourcing, is trying to make the transition as smooth as possible. And if I don't know something, then I'll let the client know that I will find the answer for them, and I'll get right back with them. But you've set me up a lot with.
I think it's important that we set our partners in our team for success, right? So if, as a business owner, it's really hard for me to let things go, right? Like I want it done a certain way, and I want to do it myself. I know a lot of people that are listening can relate to that as well. But one thing I have learned over the years is that if I can just explain as much of my vision as I can and be as specific as I can, I'm setting everybody up for success, and I'm allowing them to get a glimpse of what it is that I'm thinking and what it is that I'm expecting. And then hopefully the people that I'm bringing around, right? Like my team members, my support team, my partners, they are, in line with our culture and our vision. And once they get all that information, they can make the decisions, and they can, people are smart and you have to trust people. Believe me, designers, sometimes it's hard to know that and to trust trust other people with your baby. But, everybody that you're surrounding yourself with, hopefully you vetted them and you've done the gut check, and you know that they're in line with what you're building and the service that you're providing. And the more autonomy that you can give people, and the more you can set them up for success, the better you set it up for yourself, because then you can free yourself up for even going back and following up, having more time to do those things and observe. But, also to free up your mental capacity, like we were talking about before. And that video we sent you was a launch meeting that we had internally for, 2021. Just wanted to let everybody know what 2020 looked like, what we were looking forward to in 2021 in terms of goals, any opportunities we had last year that I wanted to make sure we addressed. And I thought it was a good opportunity. And I'm so glad to hear that it was helpful to go back and touch all those points. Who is our target audience, right? Who is that client? Where do they shop? What grocery store do they go to? Like, just paint a picture of who that person is, and allow the whole team to kind of chime in and build that persona, right? It made everybody feel like they really understood. So I think if you are thinking of outsourcing, especially if it is on the service side of things, it's important to, for yourself first, understand who you're going after and how your company or the services that you're providing are in line with that target, so that it will be easy to pass off.
Yeah, for sure. Making sure that the person that you're working with is aligned with your brand voice is super, super important. And providing them with that information up front, and really, like you said, trusting the people that you've hired. I mean, you hired them for a reason, so let them thrive, and just make sure that they have the tools that they need in order to do so.
Yes. Well, Portia, it's been so fun talking to you. We can keep going forever, I'm sure. And I'm sure we will after we hang up here.
Yes.
But, Kimberly always ends each episode with design intervention. So I wanted to give you a chance to share if you have a motto or a piece of advice that is like an actionable item that you like to share with the listeners.
Okay. So I think my motto in life and in general and in design and entrepreneurship and business and all of that is that everything is figure outable. If you take the time to sit and think through any dilemma that you're facing, there is a way to get through it. And so I think that's important to remember at the end of the day, that a lot of the obstacles that we face aren't insurmountable. We just have to figure our way around it. And then when it comes to the client intake process, like I just spoke to, making sure that that person is set up for success, that they have their brand voice, that they have your brand voice, and that they have the tools that they need to be successful. And then lastly,
well, I'm going to stop you right there because it's supposed to be one and you already gave us two. So that's cheating. Since they were so good, I'm going to let it slide. Okay.
Well, I appreciate that, Grace.
Yes. Thank you so much for taking the time to have this conversation. I think it's really, really important. And it's something that I've been thinking about a lot lately. So I'm really grateful that Kimberly gave me the chance to bring it up and share with all of you guys listening. I really appreciate it. We really appreciate you and your advice, Portia.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure, and I appreciate the opportunity to share with you and with the audience.
Thank you for being part of the Business of Design community and supporting BOD's mission to improve the industry one design business at a time. It's time for you to take the next step and join Business of Design. Like thousands of design professionals in 50 countries around the world, You'll find the systems, strategies, and protocols you need to dramatically improve your business and transform your life. What are you waiting for? Start today.